Right, Simon O'Connor.
I was going to say I'm pleased, but I don't think that's quite true. I'm not greatly supportive of this Commerce Supermarket Adjudicator and Code of Conduct Amendment Bill. This is an example to me of bad legislation for a number of reasons. I wouldn't go as far, Mr Foster-Bell, as saying it's monstrous. There are a few that I would probably ascribe that to the Labour Party bills, but no, this is not a good piece of legislation for a variety of reasons, Mr Speaker. The first is around its intent. Secondly, even in the delivery tonight, I think we're playing into the classic lines of sort of moralising and conspiracy to justify it, and I'll elaborate on that. We also have a thing, it's out of time and it's badly drafted. And while I always acknowledge and want to acknowledge members that bring bills to the House, I think it's good to do that. At the same time, I just find this is a deficient bill. I think primarily this is about interference in the market in a way that's not needed or required. And I don't say this as some absolute total zealous believer in the market. There is a time and place. And in fact, listening to the previous speaker, I think there were some very good examples of where you want codes of conduct or codes of practice. And actually one that was mentioned was in the whole medical fraternity. Absolutely there's a time and place for code of conduct, codes of ethics there, but actually you're dealing with a different kettle of fish, if I'm not beginning to mix my metaphors, of what that's trying to do there. This bill is effectively a response to a political I think what you'd have to describe what could be described, Mr Speaker, as a political stunt previously. One of those political bills which came out of a political stunt. I mean, those of us who were here in the last Parliament and obviously following from outside of the Parliament, a member of this House came and made a series of accusations around our two major, was making a series of accusations around one of the major players in the supermarket industry. I think many of us right across the House were quite interested in what was being said and why, but we were also looking for substance. And unfortunately, as far as my memory serves me, no substance was ever found to prove these facts. The government, I think, quite rightly responded, and that through the Commerce Commission, to actually undertake an investigation to see whether or not there was any evidence. Sorry, I've been rightly corrected. My memory, even at my age, is possibly not as good as that member's. But the Commerce Commission, to be accurate, chose, with facilitation from a previous member, to engage. And the interesting point is that the Commerce Commission didn't find any evidence of what was being put forward, of the accusations. And that leads me to one of the elements tonight. I talked about the debate being put forward as something that is moralised and as something that's conspiratorial. And to use that latter part, we've already heard tonight, oh yeah, we acknowledge that this report was done, and oh, we acknowledge that the report showed nothing. But there's a conspiracy behind it, because actually we know that people know that other people know what the suppliers know about what people might know in the supermarket industry. And that's just classic conspiracy. It's an attempt to deny proper process that's happened and proper results that have been given. The second element I touched on too, which has tried to, I suppose, fuel this debate, is moralising. Everyone likes to feel that they could save some money. And we've heard in elements of the debate, New Zealanders just want to pay less, that their tomatoes, their meat, their vegetables, everything, they're just paying too much. Who would be against forcing the change? Well, again, I just categorise that as moralising. In fact, the market does operate quite effectively in this space. When I think about the supermarkets, and actually the variety of supermarkets throughout my electorate, I hear some members talking about 2 supermarkets. Fortunately, I've always been able to count beyond 2. And actually, when I think of my own electorate, there's a good number of supermarkets and change. In fact, Kunwell Bakshi was talking about the number of options that he finds in South Auckland, the same I would find in East Auckland. So there is competition in the market. But I think, Mr Speaker, the fundamental element here is that the bill is not necessary. We don't need interference in this market. The Commerce Commission has found that it is not required. And I just, come back to my initial point. I just don't think this bill is needed, warranted, and to try to build its reasons on moralising and conspiracy is not particularly helpful. So I will not be voting or supporting this bill to Select Committee.